What is up and welcome back to Working Hard. Today's guest is someone I have been so excited to talk to because in a way I feel like I know her already based on the amount of her content I have consumed. Sophie Richards is a women's health practitioner, endometriosis campaigner and anti-inflammatory researcher. If you listened to our mini-series in August, you will know that I have been on a real journey with my PCOS, diet and lifestyle this year and actually for the past 15 years. And I mentioned in the bonus episode on what's changed the game for me, how interesting I found Sophie's research on inflammation in women's health, and it turned out that so many of you love her content too. So I thought, why don't we get her on the podcast before the year ends and have a full deep dive episode on anti-inflammatory living and endometriosis and all of these things. We covered a lot in this chat, so if you've ever wondered why you're always bloated, whether egg freezing is really worth considering, or what diets like the AIP actually do for your body, this is the episode for you. Before we get into the episode, a little trigger warning that we do discuss infertility in this episode, so if that's something that you don't want to hear about, you might want to skip the chapter in this episode on egg freezing. The timestamp is in the show notes so that you can still get the most out of the rest of the episode. And before we get into my chat with Sophie, just a quick reminder and request to follow the podcast wherever you are listening. Every Monday I release a new episode to help you improve your life in some way, whether that's mindset related, health related or work related. And if you're not already, if you follow us on Instagram at Working Hard Pod, I share extra clips, but so much more than that. So it's basically a community space for this podcast. There are giveaways, there are deeper dives into each episode topic. There are interesting articles that I learned a lot from and think everyone should read, etc., etc., etc. So if you're listening and you are not there, you are missing out. I hope you really enjoy this episode. I absolutely loved recording it, and despite the amount of Sophie's content I've already consumed, I learned a lot, and this type of thing is so important to talk about. So enjoy the episode, and as always, have a wonderful day. Sophie Richards, are you currently more working hard or hardly working?
I am definitely working hard, but I am so happy I wouldn't change a thing. And I think there's definitely been points where I've worked hard and hated it. Mm-hmm. And that is definitely not the case now. So definitely working hard, but it feels like I'm hardly working.
And I know you kind of talking about work, you quit your job about 2 years ago, and that was quite a big moment in your life. Could you talk me through what led to that decision and I guess what it's been like a little bit since then?
Okay, so 2 years ago, very, very different me. And I think today's a really special day for me because I'm on my period. I'm on day 2. Mm-hmm. I'm not inflamed. I'm not in pain. I'm excited to have this conversation with you, your listeners. 2 years ago, I was in a job. I was stressed all the time, hated what I was doing. And it wasn't necessarily the job itself. I couldn't be my best self because I was in so much pain with my endometriosis. My symptoms were all over the place. My bloating, my fatigue, my weight fluctuations were so up and down, and my confidence was just zero. So physically, I was in so much pain. Emotionally, I was like dealing with my endo getting worse, and I'd always worked so hard. And this is what I mean by like I've worked hard before and it's not been fun because it wasn't what I was passionate about. I was in pain. So like try showing up to a meeting you've been preparing for months and you're having an endo flare. It's like the worst thing ever, isn't it? And I was just really struggling with it. And especially things like with this stupid work policy where you had to be in the office every day. For someone who has painful periods, whether that's endometriosis, PCOS, ovarian cysts, or maybe you haven't had your diagnosis, you're just struggling, you're bleeding through pads and you're going, oh my God, I want to get up and go to the toilet and change my pad, but I'm scared that I've bled through onto my seat. Like that was a daily thought every single day in the job that I was at. And I kind of just got to this position in my life where I was like, I have no control. I have no control over my job. I have no control over my health, and something needs to change. And I was in like a traditional corporate office job. I was an account manager at 2 really big companies. And my experience was if I had a good manager that understood it, they'd be like, oh, don't worry, you can just work from home. Because I didn't need time off. I just needed to adapt to my work situation and things were great. But then your manager changes, which happens to everyone. And if they weren't understanding with the situation that I was in, with my endometriosis, with the things that I needed, it caused so much friction. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I quit my job, like blew up my whole life, quit my job, which I was so proud to have. It was like my thing. I was the corporate girl. And I was like, I need to control my health. I need to understand women's health. And I was like, I'm going to train to become a women's health practitioner. And that is what I did. So I completely flipped my life upside down. And it was the best thing I ever did because it's what's brought me to you today.
And I know obviously endometriosis has been a huge part of your journey, and obviously the symptoms that come with it, and so much of the lack of research around what really does come with it, what doesn't come with it, what's causing these problems, all of that. Could you talk us through a little bit what at that time, like what your symptoms were and how long it took you to get a diagnosis, and just like painting a little bit of a picture about your experience with endometriosis?
Yeah, so my experience with endometriosis, I think we need to go back to the start of like my first period, because for me, it was like my life changed when I got that period. So I used to be so jealous of my friends, okay? They'd come into school from like the age of like 11, 12 with their pads and their tampons and their deodorant and their bras. And I was there 17, flat-chested, like completely flat-chested, no period, didn't even need deodorant because I wasn't sweating, like I hadn't hit puberty yet. And I was so jealous of them being like, can I borrow a tampon? I was like, when will my time come?
Yes,
like, when will I get
Let
this?
me show a bra strap.
Yeah, I was like, I want to be a woman. And then I got my period and I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, how are my friends going to school? How are they like living? And I just thought, okay, maybe it's the first one, like I'm getting used to it. Second period comes and I'm like, okay, like I don't go to school that day. I'm like bleeding through all of my clothes and I'm like, this doesn't seem normal because my friends haven't done this. But this was 11 years ago. So I'm 28 now. This is 11 years ago. People didn't really talk about periods that much. So I was like, maybe my friends are bleeding through their clothes. They're just not telling me about
You're
it.
like, wow, warriors.
Yeah. I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you showing up? Third period comes and I'm like, I feel like I'm going to die. Like, it feels like my organs were being screwed, ripped, and were trying to come out of me. I felt like I'd swallowed a cheese grater. It was literally as if my stomach was like, oh my God. And people with endometriosis, like, if you know, you know, it's like a corkscrew is twisting. And then your period comes a couple of days later and it kind of goes away. And you're like, this is so weird. So I actually was super confident going to the doctors, where a lot of people go, I couldn't talk about it for years. No. Third period in, I'm straight to the doctors because I'm like, something is wrong. This is not okay. Because it's not just the physical pain. I was exhausted. And like 17, you're spring chicken. You're going out with your friends. You're having a great time. Not me. I'm like pale, drained, tired, missing school. And I go to the doctor and it's the classic situation. And we'll get onto the fact that I do love doctors, I promise you. But this particular doctor was at the laptop just like, you've seen the TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I feel like I'm dying. I'm this. And like, okay, just the pill and it's just painful periods. You're fine. And what was really difficult is that because I felt so insignificant compared to this doctor's, experience and work, I was like, okay, yes, what you've said is right. I am being dramatic. It is just painful periods and I just need to take the pill. So that's what I did. But my symptoms just got worse.
Really?
The bloating got so bad that I had 2 wardrobes. One was a size A, one was a size 14, because at different points in the month, I was genuinely changing that size. So when we talk about being confident in your body that age and boys and everything like that, it just felt so difficult. And it should have been a red flag, okay? And I always think if someone is there with 2 wardrobes, this is your sign. So I was having this issue, the pain was getting worse, and I was really confident going back to the doctor because I was like, something isn't wrong, like you haven't fixed me. And then a different doctor would say, oh, that's the wrong pill, that's why it's getting worse. That story for 2 years. And it was points where every single month I would go to the doctor and I'd be like, please help me. Different pill. Please help me. It's painful periods. Please help me. Maybe it's IBS. Please help me. Okay, maybe it's celiac disease. And we never got an answer. And it got to the point where it was so severe that I just stopped trusting anyone. I stopped telling anyone when things were wrong. And I was on the way to one of my A-level exams. And for 2 days, I had been bleeding out. Like I was ghostly white, soaked through with blood. And I was like, but my A-levels are the most important thing, right? Like you need to get to uni. Walking to my exam, blacked out, woke up in the hospital. My mum was there and I was an hour away from home. So I was like, why the hell is my mum here? And oh my God, I've missed my exam. Like, why am I in this hospital? And they were like, you need to go in for emergency surgery. So I had the surgery and they found a cyst the size of an orange that had twisted around my fallopian tube. And they said, this is probably why you've been in so much pain. It was probably the cyst. We've taken it out and a little piece of your ovary and you're going to be fine. Like you're healed, you're cured, off you go. So I was kind of like, okay, like I'm fixed. This is me done. It's the summer before I go to university. I go to university and my symptoms get worse and worse and worse. And now knowing what I do about inflammation and bloating and endometriosis, it's so obvious. And I know that we will probably come on to those strategies. But going to university, you're drinking more. You're under a lot of stress because of exams. You're socializing more. Your food is probably more ultra processed. And my symptoms got worse. And this is where the conversation totally changed with the doctors, where instead of talking about IBS and painful periods, it was, oh, you're young, you're at university, how many sexual partners have you had this month? They would ask that. And I was like, my sex is so painful that I'm not getting any action right now. I was like, sex is the last thing I'm thinking of. I was like, I wish. And it was just getting worse. And again, 3 years later is when one doctor said the words endometriosis to me. So this, from start to finish, 5 years of battling, surgery as well. And it took 5 years to get my answer of endometriosis. And the only reason I had that answer is because that doctor, he was amazing. He was interested in women's health. He'd recently been to a conference about women's health. And so he had endometriosis on his brain. So when he was reading my history and my symptoms, it clicked into place that it could be that. So I had a diagnostic laparoscopy, which is basically like an investigation into your tummy. And that's when they found endometriosis. But 5 years sounds crazy, right? Like those symptoms sound crazy. I am lucky. Like I am lucky in the world of endometriosis. The average time to diagnosis from symptoms starting is 8 to 10 years. And that has to change.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that story and everything you went through is horrifying. And I don't know. I don't doubt that if that was a common male symptom, that we would have different realities. What horrifies me the most is that when I hear horrifying stories, I'm not surprised. Any woman could probably tell anyone about like 10 of their close friends who've had like something similar, or like just, you know, one of my friends, for example, had like an extreme issue with their coil, and it was like put in completely wrong, and it had been like absorbed by their uterus and was completely embedded and all of that, and no one was even looking at anything because they were just like, oh, it's a uterus, so it's meant to actually be really painful and ruin your life, but like hope that's okay. And I don't know, myself, for example, like I remember once having such bad pain that I went to A&E in the middle of the night because I literally thought I was maybe like having a concealed pregnancy and like giving birth. And I had like this giant cyst that had ruptured, but I only found out 2 months later because in the hospital they said, oh, well, you've probably got a UTI. And I said, am I testing for it? Like, as in, like, have you seen
other tests saying that?
Exactly. And they were like, no, but you know, you've got some pain and all of this, like wouldn't even do a scan, were like, you know, come back for a scan through the normal pathways, all of this. And then 2 months later they were like, oh yeah, you've got really bad internal bleeding. And I'm like, bro, like, come on, seriously? What are we meant to do? But I guess for anyone listening to this who's thinking, oh, do you know what, I might have endometriosis, what would you recommend to them in terms of being armed and going to the doctor, and I guess your best advice for a conversation with a doctor about it?
So it kind of touches on your experience there. First of all, I'm sorry that happened to you. That shouldn't be happening. And I think it touches on something that is happening all the time. And in the book that I'm writing right now, I talk about just because something is common, i.e. happening to lots of people, does not mean it is normal. We need to stop saying things are normal, because that is the main problem that we're having right now. When it comes specifically to your question about endometriosis, and this is actually true for anyone who's struggling with any symptoms. So if you're just not sure if it's endometriosis, if it's something else, you're just like, I'm struggling and I need help. Track your symptoms. This is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself, because we know what it's like, okay, when you've been dealing with pain and you just need help from the doctor, you go to the appointment and they're like, okay, so what's the problem today? And you're like, bleh. And then you leave that appointment and you go, oh my God, I forgot to say this, and you don't leave with the help that you came there for. So track your symptoms, write down your main symptoms. How often are they happening? How severe are they? Bonus points if you can start tracking your cycle, even if it's irregular. All of that information is so powerful for your doctor to be able to make a really nice picture for you of what's going on and either handle it there and then in the situation, or to be able to pass that on to a specialist. If you have something like endometriosis and you are going down that diagnosis route, please, if you can, go and see an endometriosis specialist or ask for a referral. And you have the power to ask for a referral for an endometriosis specialist. I didn't know that they existed. So when I went for my endo surgery, I had the wrong surgery. I had what is called ablation, which, if you think of endometriosis like a weed, ablation is like going, I'm just going to chop the weed. Like, it looks nice for a little bit and then boom, pops back up. That is what ablation surgery does. Excision surgery is ripping that weed out at the root. Yes, unfortunately, you will still have the odd weed grow back. Endometriosis chronic. I will always live with endometriosis, but I do not live with the symptoms anymore. And that is because A, I have had excision surgery, the right surgery with an endo specialist, and all of the lifestyle stuff that I practice outside of it. So please go and see an endometriosis specialist. Please make sure you know what surgery you're having.
That's such good advice. And I think that the tracking your symptoms part is so important, because I also think so much around this is rightfully so emotional that a lot of the time we spend a lot, it's so upsetting. Like I remember with all of my PCOS appointments, I would never come out of it like not then going to the bathroom to cry, just because it was so
emotional.
Yeah, just there's a lot of obviously emotions tied to it. But I also think what's so impressive about that is you now saying that you don't live with the symptoms is like, I know for some people listening who have endometriosis, they will be like, how the fuck did you do that? And I want to come on to everything you've done around the lifestyle changes and everything, because I mean, it's obviously such a debilitating thing to have. And I know that a lot of people who have it, like you went through, just suffer so much with it all the time, and so much of it is uncontrollable. And so I'm really excited to come on to that. I want to first talk quickly about the fact that you've openly spoken about egg freezing as well. And I would love to hear, kind of after you were encouraged to freeze your eggs, what really made you think now's the time, and you know what, this is a good thing for me to do, I should be doing this?
So this is something I find very hard to talk about, not because I don't think egg freezing should be spoken about, but the way that I personally got into it wasn't a nice scenario. And that's why I talk so openly about it, because I don't want other people to have the same experience as me. So when I was 24, so to recap, 17 symptoms started. 5 years later, I was diagnosed. I was told that having a baby or a hysterectomy would cure my endometriosis. And thankfully, before having a hysterectomy, I found the endo specialist who said, no, you just need the right surgery. So I had 3 surgeries by this point in my life. It was very full on. And every single surgery, they would take a little bit of my ovaries. And every surgery, I would say, like, I didn't have any of my like practitioner training. I knew nothing about women's health at this point, but I had the common sense to know that you have ovaries. Yeah. And if you take some of them, like, surely that's going to affect my fertility. And the conversation was always, no, you've got plenty of eggs. You're young, don't be silly. Like, you don't need to think about this. You're fine. So at the age of 24 in my life, I had moved to Yorkshire for like my dream corporate job. It was still sort of COVID time. I didn't have any friends or family around me. And my flatmate was away this weekend. And I woke up and I was like, I'm having an endo flare, which wasn't uncommon because the food that I was eating was super processed. I was literally having like 2 Dominoes a week to just get me through. It's like the only thing that gave me joy, because I hated my job. I hated my life. I was in so much pain. The only thing that gave me joy was crap food. And so I was exhausted. I was having this endo flare. And at the time, my coping mechanism, which I do not recommend to anyone, it's a terrible idea, was sleeping tablets and eating rubbish food. That was it. I was like, I'm just going to sleep through this flare. And the flare was getting worse and worse and worse. And I knew it was a bad one, but you yourself have talked about you going to the hospital and needing emergency help and kind of being told, it's nothing, it's just a UTI. That was my life constantly. And I was too tired to go to the hospital. I was like, I'm not doing it. They're just going to tell me nothing's wrong with me. So I stopped trusting my symptoms. So my flare was getting worse. I was throwing up. I started losing consciousness. And I woke up on the floor of my bathroom with this bruise along my face here. It was throbbing. And I was like, I'm on my own. This is really scary. I have no one that I can call. My family's like 5 hours away. And I was like, I'm going to have to call 111, which is the non-emergency help. And I was like, hey, I've been passing out. My symptoms are getting really bad. Like, I think I need help. And thankfully, they asked me for my number, how to get into my flat, and they told me to jam my door open. And that decision saved my life. So I wake up on the bathroom floor. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've passed out. I call 111. And they tell me like the most important information, which is to keep my door open so that they can come in. Really similar situation to what happened in my A-levels, where honestly, and it still feels like I'm in it, like I still get this shake, and it happens to people every day. So that's why I share it, even though I find it hard. So I was on my own in the hospital. Oh my God. You know, when you're like, if I can just tone it down a bit. I was on my own in the hospital and they were like, you need surgery. Something's clearly wrong with your abdomen, because it was so swollen. And I was fighting them. I was like, no, this happens all the time. I'm always this bloated. Like, I don't have surgery. And they were like, something is wrong. You need to sign this form that says it's okay. We can take your ovaries. And like, I've always wanted to be a mum. So at 24, I was single, which I was really conscious of because I knew my fertility wasn't going to be the best.
Yeah.
So to have them tell me that they were going to take my ovaries away, I remember in that moment, one, I was just in so much pain because of my stomach, but I was kicking myself because I was like, I asked the doctors, should I freeze my eggs? And they said I was stupid. I was too young. I was young, fit, healthy, and I wasn't. So I ended up having the surgery. And I woke up and I remember being in agony. And the first thing I said, I was like, do I have my ovaries? I grabbed the nurse. I was like, do I have my ovaries? And she was like, I'm not authorized to talk to you about this appointment. And I was just like, so I was screaming. I was hysterical. And it took half an hour for the doctor to come round and go, oh, you had an endometriosis flare-up, which looks like it triggered appendicitis. We removed your appendix. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, do I have my ovaries? And they were like, yeah, we didn't touch your ovaries. We just took some cysts away, but you have your ovaries. And it was the biggest relief ever. And it was like a switch turned on in my brain where I was like, my life is changing. This is it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Sorry, let me have...
No,
you're
doing great.
This is... You're doing great, sweetie.
You're so much better than me. Once I start crying, I'm like,
no, this is the only story that I get emotional about. When this is done,
it's always like certain ones, and then you're like, you can't touch it with a fucking...
Honestly, my partner is always... No, my partner's like, and this is what therapy's for. I'm like, next chapter, Dylan. Leave me be. One thing at a time. So I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I put my resignation into my job, because I was in Yorkshire, I was ages away. The only place that I really had help was London in Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital. They're amazing. The specialists they have there are amazing. And I was like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to move to London and I'm going to get my eggs frozen. And so that is why I ended up moving to London. I took a job because my friend worked there and she was like, Sophie, if you go through my referral, you get a really good signing fee. And I was like, great, because I can't afford egg freezing. Freezing isn't free. So I took a job for the signing bonus, landed in London, and then that's when I went to get my eggs frozen.
Wow, that is, first of all, an incredibly traumatic way to get there. And I think that, I'm so angry for you that was A, the way that you kind of ended up there, but B, that like you'd clearly been having these problems for so long, and the fact that wasn't a kind of decision, like that decision could have been taken away from you, I think is, completely horrendous. And I also just think that at that point, I don't know, like we obviously get so much on the NHS and the NHS is amazing. I also think when it comes to those types of things, like you having had emergency surgery a number of times there, and the risk having been removing your ovaries a number of times, like surely it should have been also suggested that you could get that covered. Like that you could, okay, but you're ending up in the hospital over and over again. They're taking different pieces of your ovaries. They're, doing all of this. And there was an emergency situation where it nearly did X, Y, Z. Like surely also be like, we can cover egg freezing for you. And so you can do that, because to be able to, it's thousands and thousands to be able to do it. And I think as well, my experiences definitely have been nowhere near as bad as yours. But I remember, again, like I went from an egg freezing consultation when I was like 23, 24, like super young, just because as well, as you said, like I knew that I'd always had these issues. So I was like, do you know what? I'm in a fortunate financial position. I was like, I just want to go, and for peace of mind and all of this. And they were very discouraging. And I don't know, it just felt like there wasn't a full picture at any point. And it felt like at one point you're dealing with like a business on one side and the kind of egg freezing business and like all of these different things. And they were happy to recommend all of these different things. And at the same time, like you're not having your health as a whole looked at from like a doctor's point of view. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you're comfortable talking about it, I would love to know more about the process itself. And for anyone who's kind of listening to this and thinking, oh God, do you know what? I'm in a similar situation, or I've been thinking about it, and actually this is giving me the push I need to actually go and look into it further. Yeah. I would love to hear kind of more about your experience, because I've heard lots of different things as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try and give a rounded experience, because I went through 2 rounds of egg freezing and they were both completely different.
Okay.
So there are 3 things that I tell everyone they need to consider when you're going down the egg freezing route. I'll tell you whether it was worth it for me, and then something kind of unbelievable that happened in egg freezing, which is so fucking ironic. So first of all, financial, okay? So like we've alluded to, it's not free, it's not on the NHS. If you were to have something like cancer and were going through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, it would be offered to you because they know that doing that treatment can cause infertility for some people. It's not the case if you are born with something like endometriosis or PCOS or anything that can impact your fertility. And that is why when I say I have a fire in my belly, like you asked me at the start of this podcast, am I working hard or hardly working? This is why I'm working hard. This is why we're building not only like my page and sharing all of the awareness on my page, but we're building Found because I'm determined to get egg freezing free on the NHS, not just for people with endometriosis, but anyone struggling with fertility when it's not their choice. So financially, you have to pay for it. They always tell you, like, depending on if you're going to a private clinic or a hospital, I actually would say go to a hospital. Really? Guy's and St Thomas's was amazing because my experience with private clinics is they try and milk you for all the money you can get. Okay. Also with a hospital, if something goes wrong, because there are risks like hyper-ovarian syndrome, which I was very close to, hospitals are bigger, they have more access to resources. So don't get sort of glamified by the gorgeous waiting rooms of these private clinics and that experience. The hospital I went to was amazing. Financially, it cost me 20 grand.
Fucking hell.
£20,000. And I only needed 2 rounds. And that's because there's hidden costs.
Oh my God, I did not know it was that expensive.
20,000. So it sounds like it's not going to be that much because they say, 1 round is £4,000. So you go, okay, I have 2 rounds, 8. Okay. I'm so sorry, you're going to need a full body MRI just to check this. We're going to need another round of bloods. Oh, because you've got endometriosis, you need bloods every single day. It racks up. Then there's the travel to these appointments. It's the supplements that you take around it. So when you look at egg freezing as a whole, everyone is different, but my experience, it was £20,000.
Oh my God, that's really shocked me.
I was 24, 25 at this time. I haven't got a penny to my name, okay? I'm like every 25-year-old. I'm unreasonable with money. I'm shopping in Zara. I haven't got anything, okay? Nothing. So my friend who calls me and it's like, if you use my referral thing, you'll get a signing bonus with this company. I was like, sick. That's 50% of my egg freezing. I'm like girl mathing my way through egg freezing. And I'm like, where am I finding 10,000? And I did what every self-respecting child does. And I call my mum and dad. I'm like, Mum, I need you. I'm like, I don't normally ask for money unless it was like the odd emergency 50 quid at uni, which we've all been at. It's like, Mum and Dad, I'm so sorry to ask this. Like, please, do you have this money? And they said yes. With that, I want to take this moment to recognize that as much as I want to tell everyone, if you can explore egg freezing, do it. There is so much privilege, financial privilege that comes into that. So much. I was able to live in London. I had a job that was giving me a salary, a signing bonus. I had parents that could support me. I want to recognize that because I don't want people to be like, oh, she can do it. I understand that. And that's why I'm trying to change things. I want it to be free, but 20 grand. So financial, that's the first thing. Second thing is emotional. Going to those appointments was one of the most harrowing things ever because you're going, I was single at the time. So one, you're going to this fertility treatment clinic, couple, me 24-year-old on my own going, fuck, I don't know if I can have kids, like help me out. You then go through all of these forms going, by the way, with egg freezing, it's a 10% success rate. 10%. That means you get 10 eggs, 1 chance. You have 1 chance out of all of that. My ovaries were pretty botched because of all the surgeries anyway. So they were like, your chances are really slim. Then I was borrowing all this money from my parents, which I felt so guilty about. And then they kept saying, are you sure there's no one you can freeze your eggs with? Because embryos are so much more successful when you freeze the egg and the sperm together. It's a 20 to 30% chance. And I was like, you tell me who I'm picking off the street. Like I could not
like
be
any
more.
Of you guys?
Yeah. I was like, Hinge is doing me a disservice. I'm not getting anywhere right now. And like, imagine first date. Oh, this is going so well. Can you put your sperm in a cup?
Like sperm.
Don't ask questions, but can I just borrow it for a second?
You know this cup on the table right here?
Yeah. If you could just
go to the bathroom.
Yeah, just do me a favor. Like, just do me a favor. So I was like, I can't do this, but I found like I'm joking about it now. Everyone, I was like, I'm so single. And then physical. So with egg freezing, if you don't know what the process is, in the morning you have to inject yourself at home, which to a lot of people is really scary. For me, I'm a farmer. I was born and raised on a farm. I'm used to this stuff. So I was like, no problem. However, you have to stimulate your ovaries. So every month you have 1 follicle that gets ready. When you're going through egg freezing, they want 20 to 30 follicles. So imagine your period on steroids. And so you're stimulating it. And then at night, you have to do this injection to like keep your ovaries to hold on to them because you don't want to let them loose. So throughout egg freezing, I felt like I was carrying around hockey balls in my stomach, which then was flaring my endometriosis. So you've got the financial cost, you've got the emotional cost, and you've got the physical cost. I don't know whether it was the universe, God, whether it was all of the anti-inflammatory living stuff that I'd started to implement. I had 50 eggs from 2 rounds, which is like almost unheard of. Like you want to get 10 to 15 eggs per round. I got 50 from 2 rounds and they were like, no more. Like you have enough in the freezer. So I was very lucky. I also look back and I'm like, even if my egg freezing was unsuccessful, or even if now with all these eggs, if we try and use them later on because I can't have children and it doesn't work, I am so grateful for every penny spent and every second that went into that, because it's the first time I felt like I had control of my body, because I'll always live with endo. I may occasionally have pain here or there, like anti-inflammatory living is doing bits, but you never know, things can happen. But I had control for the first time over my fertility. I was doing what I could. And so when people tell me, do you think egg freezing is worth it? I'm like, 1,000%. If you can, do it. The thing that happened in egg freezing, which I never expected, and again, remember, I'm getting asked every single day, are you sure you don't have anyone? I'm like, no. I go on Hinge because my friend is like, come on, let's have fun. And this guy comes up on my Hinge and I'm like, he's really funny. He's bald, not my usual type. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. Dylan, if you're listening, I love you with all my heart.
You are bolder.
You were not on the vision board, okay? I like floppy, long, glossy hair. All of my ex-partners were that. It's not the life that I thought, but it's the life that chose me. So my bald queen, Dylan, pops up on my Hinge and I'm like, he's a bit of me. We're messaging and I'm like, this is insane. And at this point, I was posting on my page endo awareness. It's all I had. I didn't have like the tools yet, but I was just talking about it. And I'd started doing videos for the first time and I was documenting every day of my egg freezing. So if anybody wants to watch that, there's a whole documentation on my page. We're dating. We're just messaging, sorry. He follows me on Instagram, on my personal Instagram, which has nothing to do with women's health. It's just like me trying to be an Insta girl. I posted about organic pads and tampons on the wrong Instagram. He sees this video and goes, what's this? And I was like, oh my God, no, this is it. Like, it's over. He's found out. We hadn't been on a first date yet. He finds my endo page, starts taking the piss out of all of my posts, okay? And he's like, look at your belly in this video, because it was blown out. I was injecting myself. This is what he saw. He sent me all these funny messages. And then he sent me this paragraph and he said, on a serious note, I think this is unreal. Like, what you're doing is amazing. And I want to take you on a date. And I was just like, he's either a creep, or he's a real one.
Yeah.
On our third date, he asked to come and see me in London. And I was like, you can. I am in the middle of egg freezing, so I'm going to have to inject in the morning. You're then going to need to come with me to my appointment. And then I'm going to have to inject before we go on our date tonight. And he's like, no problem. Doesn't faze him. I bring him to my doctor's appointment. And my fertility specialist is like,
you found one.
He's there like, him? I'm like, third date. Third date.
Don't give him a cup. Don't give him a cup.
Don't give him a cup. I thought about it, but I didn't. And that was it. And I was like, oh my God, out of the most painful time in my life of egg freezing and worrying about finding a partner and whether these eggs are ever going to be able to be used. And then I meet my now fiance.
Oh, love that with a gorgeous ring.
Thank you. I'm very lucky. So is yours.
On that, if you were to sit down with like every woman in their 20s, 30s, 40s, young women who want to know about their fertility, what do you wish that they knew about their fertility options?
Okay, so there's 3 main things. One is stop thinking about fertility as something that will be for later. It impacts our health right now. It comes from our health today. Fertility isn't something you think about later. Everything you do right now will be a part of your fertility journey. Number 2, you are not silly, you are not stupid, and you are not too young to be thinking about your fertility. Those were the words that I kept being told. Oh, you're silly. Don't be stupid. You're too young. And we all know I almost lost my ovaries. So feel empowered to have that conversation with your doctor. And if they're not listening, get a second opinion. But you are never too young. And Jennifer Aniston has come out in the press, I think a couple of years ago now, and said the one thing I wish I'd have done was frozen my eggs sooner, because when she was on her fertility journey, it was too late for her. So you're never too silly. You're never too stupid. You're never too young. Then the final thing would be, just because you are seeking answers or information and you're curious doesn't mean you need to act now. It just means that you have the information that you need to make the informed decision when that time comes. It's like with you when you went to get your fertility treatment at 23, or your fertility appointment, sorry. It's just nice having that information locked in and you go, okay, I know where I'm at. I don't need to act, but I know where I'm at. Those would be the 3 key things.
I love that. And I think that you're so right on, like, our control is removed so much when we're dealing with a lot of these various different issues and like the lack of research and the lack of support from, various different areas. And I think anything that can gain back that control for yourself is very important, both mentally, but also in terms of actually dealing with the issues. And I think feeling like you have that control and the ability to, have some say in your future, I think goes a very, very long way. And I'm really interested as well in how having your eggs frozen. I was about to say having freezed your eggs, which doesn't feel quite right. Having had your eggs frozen, I don't know, how has it changed the way that you think about your fertility and the way that you think about your future? And kind of, there's so much rush on us as women, especially when it comes to, being in your late 20s, early 30s, like finding a partner, settling down, all of that. There's so much anxiety around that. And I know, we've spoken on this podcast before about people ending up settling because they just want to be with someone so that they can actually get to that next stage of their life because there's so much pressure around, having kids and everything. How did that change your mentality, if at all? Just, I'm interested on a personal level.
Yeah, it changed everything for
Really?
me because I felt suffocated by my own thoughts because I was like, I want to be a mum. What if I don't find anyone? Okay, I've got my eggs frozen, or like if I could get my eggs frozen, maybe that would give me hope, but I don't know. I was in this state of like not knowing, worrying, panicking. And what we'll come on to about inflammation is that stress and the link between the gut-brain axes. Half of my endo symptoms were coming from the fact that I was so stressed about fertility. So going through the process after recovering from all of those hormones, because it was a wild ride. I'm not going to lie, it was a wild ride. But all of a sudden I was seeing life. It was like I took off negative glasses and I put on positive rose-tinted ones because I was like, okay, that's done. I've done everything I can with fertility. If it happens or not, I've done everything that I can. And I started going, okay, how do I bring my dreams to life? So I want to change the way that we look at women's health. I want to build a women's health brand. We've already started it called Found, and it will be the home of women's health. It's where you come for resources. It's where you come for help. It's where you come from advice. And I had this like energy and fire and passion to do that because my thoughts weren't so consumed and swallowed by my fear of fertility. With my relationship, I don't have this clock of we need to have kids, we need to have kids. I'm like, no. We're enjoying our life. I'm enjoying our relationship as it is. And I don't want to change what we are as a couple and we are as individuals and what I'm growing in my business because I feel like I need to shoehorn a baby in before I'm 30. It's not happening. The time will come when the time is right. And that is why I went through egg freezing so that I had that security deposit. And I want to be clear, this is not guaranteed. I have 50 eggs. I have 5 chances from that. It's 10%, but I'm willing to take that. And life is about living. You do not have to have children to make your life be special, for you to find your purpose. I truly believe that my purpose is women's health and helping other women on their journey. That is my baby. One day I hope to have my own baby, but I'm not forcing a life into this world because of this silly timeline that we're told about. So it changed everything for me.
Yeah, I really love that. And I do think mental load is one of the biggest parts of this, and being able to remove that in any way is so important. It's funny because obviously you'd then met the person that you are now with and is now your fiance and all of that. But I'd be so interested as well to hear from people who have gone back into the like dating world in a more, I don't know, dating more people capacity, because I'd be so interested as well to hear like how their mindset changes in terms of like, do you settle for less, like or do you do not settle for less, all of these different things when it comes to like because we feel like we're in such a rush.
Well, this is the thing. Before egg freezing, I was dating to meet my baby daddy.
Right.
After that, I was just like, this guy's great. Like, we're having a fun time. So I would also be curious, but I would suspect that they would feel a lot more confident about it.
Well, people can be looking up at the mic, be like, feed in, give us
Talk
answers. Give us your experience. And I want to get on to bloating, because obviously we talked about inflammation in a lot of different senses, and I personally, not just with bloating, but I can bloat for fucking England, let me tell you that for free. So many of my problems with hormones were also linked to inflammation and a huge amount of inflammation in my body and all of that. But I feel like a lot of women have issues with bloating and spend a lot of time feeling upset about it, but also don't necessarily know how to deal with it or why they have bloating. Why is bloating so common, especially for women? And why do so many of us just kind of put up with it and just assume it's normal?
Yeah. Great question. And this is why bloating and inflammation is such a hot topic right now, because people are starting to go, oh, wait, it's not just me. Like, you're struggling with it too. So love the differentiation between common and normal. First of all, let's start with what is actually normal, because I do feel like there's this social media trend now where it's like, I have a super flat stomach, and if I have any bloating, it's really bad.
Mm-hmm. Or like if my stomach is full at all, like this is bloating. It's like, you ate a meal.
You ate a meal.
So that's got to go somewhere.
It's fine. It's exactly that. And there's also things like tight pants syndrome. Like if your jeans are literally too tight, that can make you bloated. It's a thing. So it's insane, isn't it? Right?
It's crazy.
So
me now overthinking my like jeans.
Me being like jean, doom, 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 zip. Exactly. Go for it. It's your podcast. You can do what you want. So normal bloating, things like when we eat fiber. So think that big salad. We don't digest fiber. Our bodies can't, but our lovely bacteria can. So when our bacteria is digesting this fiber or fermenting it, part of the process with fermentation is gas being let off. And so if you've had like a fat salad, and it might be like your first salad of summer, for example, it happens all the time. You're like, oh, I feel a little bit bloated. And what I mean by that is like your stomach is slightly pushing out. It's not painful. It's not persisting. It's not stopping you from doing anything. You're just noticing it. That is your gut working. And that's why we have something called the fart walk, which is you go for a walk after food. We've all seen it on TikTok and it works. It works. Okay, after lunch, go out for your fart walk and you'll be like, shit, that was amazing.
Good for your blood sugar too.
Good for your blood sugar too. Exactly.
And good for keeping friends in the office. You're not just sat there for a while.
Not friends in public when you're farting next to them, but it's fine. You'll never see them again. It's the best part about London.
London's smelly anyway.
Yeah. So that is normal. Also, as women, we have this gorgeous menstrual cycle with these fluctuating hormones that we tend to demonize. They're amazing. They do so much for us. Every part of our cycle can be wonderful in its own way, even your period, even just before your period. But with fluctuating hormones, you have digestion that slows down. You have water retention that can fluctuate. And that's why if you step on the scales every day in your cycle, you will see it says something different. Some of that is normal. So there's this hormone called progesterone. It's like your cool, calm, chill out hormone. I say she comes in before your period. And she's like, chill out, to the point where your digestion is like, no problem. I'm not going to do anything. And that's why sometimes we can struggle with bowel movements. However, yes, some of that is normal, but throw in the life that we live right now. Ultra-processed foods. If you don't know what ultra-processed foods are, because it sounds like a stupidly complicated term, think like meat, fish, fruit, veg, nuts, seeds, grains, legumes. One ingredient. You pick up a sweet potato, it doesn't have a label on it, it's a sweet potato. When you transform food, especially adding loads of chemicals, stabilizers, sweeteners, sugars, and then all of a sudden you spit out pasta, biscuits, sweets, donuts, they are ultra-processed foods. As soon as that food becomes very, very complicated, that in itself can be a stress on your body because your body's like, what is this? What is this chemical? I've never seen this before. And your body's trying to find out how to digest it. So throw into the equation ultra-processed foods, stress. Your manager calls you and is like, you need to get into the office today. Your guest is 2 hours early. And you're like, stress. Then you've got environmental toxins. All of these things are going on in our life right now where we are operating at levels that we were never made to operate at. We're trying to keep up. And that is when we are now dealing with this epidemic of inflammation. Bloating is through the roof. And I don't just mean bloating in your stomach. I mean the classic you see all the time, cortisol face, where you have this moon face, your face blows out. For me,
I even see it in my arms.
My arms. For me, it's the back of my arms. I'm like, best of luck seeing a tricep.
No, I see it in my arms and I see it in my legs.
In your legs?
Like I physically can see the difference. And I'm like, I know it's not insane because I see the different like I know it is there. And I'm like, why?
Yes,
it's my lunch in my legs.
Yeah,
like you're not meant to be there.
Exactly. Okay, so one, we have something for this. I'm going to take you through my lymphatic drainage. I'm going to teach you how to do it.
I've actually already done your lymphatic drainage. You don't even
dream.
Please take
dream, right? It'll take 5 minutes. But we have all of that going on. And then all of a sudden we are dealing with, our body is just literally under fire. It's like hitting the panic button at work, hitting the panic button with food, hitting the panic button with our relationships, sleep, thing of the past, screens all the time. And then we're struggling with all this inflammation. We're going, why is this happening? And then everyone is normalizing it because A, women typically struggle with it more because of that gorgeous fluctuating cycle. Those stresses can really mess with our hormones and mess with our cycle. And also because we have such limited information and resources when it comes to women's health, it's normal because everyone has it, but it's not. It's common. It's not normal. And we need to stop like putting up and shutting up when it comes to our symptoms.
So if someone feels permanently bloated,
Yes.
what would you recommend they do? Like what steps should they take?
Anti-inflammatory living. All the way.
You're like, I thought you'd never
All
ask.
the way. This is, oh my God, this is like my bread and butter. This is like sex to me. I'm like, God, anti-inflammatory living. There's 6 pillars, okay? And I think when you think about anti-inflammatory living, it feels like this huge thing. Food, gut, detoxification, sleep, stress, and movement. Because we think of inflammation as only coming from food. And that is one of the problems. Food is a huge part of it. You eat all day, every day. If you're eating inflammatory food,
So
same.
right.
I'm an eater. But if you also have other things that are stressful in your life and causing inflammation, you can't fix the piece of the puzzle. You need to think of your body as a whole. And so anti-inflammatory living absolutely is the way forward.
So let's talk about that. And I want to particularly talk about both the AIP diet and also 30-day reset.
Yeah.
Because personally, if anyone's listened to my PCOS episode, no listens. But
The PCOS girls are listening. The
Thank
girls
you.
that need it are listening.
Thank you. But for anyone who did listen to that, I obviously mentioned in that when I originally started my journey of kind of realizing that inflammation was causing a lot of the issues, whereas I thought they were like root cause hormone issues, and actually it was inflammation making all of my hormones go crazy. I was doing a lot of research, and that's when I came across your page, and that's when you were the person who taught me about the AIP diet, and I never properly did the AIP diet, but what I did was it helped really educate me on what was potentially inflammatory, and then I was able to kind of eliminate and stop it and kind of notice certain things. Like for me, paprika, for example, I never would have thought that would have wreaked havoc, and then I would have paprika once and I'd be like, oh, whoa, okay. So I'd love for you to give us a little bit of an intro on what the AIP diet is, but also how can someone listening to this go about, if they wanted to do the 30-day reset and they wanted to just start this anti-inflammatory living, how would they go about it? Sorry, 10 questions in one.
No, I love it. Throw them at me. So first of all, let's talk about the difference between the reset and the AIP. So the AIP is short for autoimmune protocol. And when you go to speak to your doctor or a women's health practitioner, there are kind of 3 key anti-inflammatory diets. So we're only talking about food here, where you can try depending on your needs. So you have the AIP, you have low FODMAP, and you have low histamine. Low FODMAP is the one that has the biggest noise about it because it's the most researched. I did the low FODMAP and it didn't do anything for me. For some people, they love it. Histamine, I don't really struggle with histamine issues. And so I knew that diet wasn't for me.
What would histamine issues be?
So it can be things like one symptom I do experience is itchy skin, for example.
Okay.
But if you think even as basic as like summer, when you're like sneezing, you've got fluey or coughy or coldy, that kind of thing, that often comes down to histamine intolerances. And it can come from food. However, there are limitations to the histamine diet. Genetically, you can be wired differently and histamines can be an issue. So it's not just the foods that you eat. And that is why, again, there isn't much research on the histamine. The AIP, however, is something that for anyone struggling with autoimmune conditions or conditions similar, I urge to look at it. Definitely speak to a doctor, dietitian, or a women's health practitioner before taking it on. But the AIP is an extreme anti-inflammatory diet, and it's split into 3 phases. First of all, you've got elimination. Second, you've got reintroduction. Third is maintenance. So the first part of it, the elimination, you eliminate anything that could be causing inflammation. I have an entire guide on the AIP because it can feel so complicated. But essentially, you are eating meat, fish, fruit and veg, but even within that, there's intricacies. You said paprika is yours, chili is mine. They are things that are eliminated. Nightshades are eliminated. And why you reduce all of these out of your diet is so that your inflammation, if it is food triggered, goes from 100 to 0. So your symptoms theoretically should go away if it is triggered by food. Then you move into reintroduction phase. So for me, it took me 30 days for that to happen, which was insane because remember, it took 10 years of like painful symptoms, endometriosis flares, painful periods, heavy periods, 4 surgeries. Nothing was taking my symptoms away. And I do a 30-day AIP diet and I'm like, this
Yeah, that's crazy.
Doesn't make sense. And I'm so glad I documented it on my socials every single day, because people saw me transform, like with me. My face dropped. I lost over a stone in weight that I thought was fat, and it was water weight. It was inflammation. And I was like, no wonder my dress size was changing all the time. So then you go into reintroduction phase, which is phase 2, and you reintroduce. It's painfully slow, but it's worth it. You reintroduce one ingredient, see how your body feels. So I was like, okay, black pepper, reintroduce that, no issues. Rice, no issues. This, no issues. Coffee, no issues, thankfully. And then I reintroduced chili flakes, the tiniest amount on cucumber, okay? And I was like, that's going to be fine. I did my documentation. It's day 44, the most extreme anti-inflammatory diet. I'm reintroducing chili flakes. Eat it. 2 hours later, migraine.
Really?
Brain fog. Bloating. And then I come on an early period and it is heavy, like awful. And I was like, I can't think straight. I can't see straight. I can't work. I can't do this. I'm uncomfortable. And I was like, oh my God, no. All my symptoms are coming back. And I was like, it was chili.
It was just the chili flakes.
It was just the chili. Yeah. So you go through this process of reintroductions to find what your triggers are. And then this is what is really important. And this is a misconception about the AIP. And I still, to this day, a year and a half later, get this question being like, but wait, eggs aren't AIP. And I'm like, no, you eliminate things and then you reintroduce.
Right,
so
the aim is not to keep all of them out of your
diet.
No,
of course not, because that'd be completely unrealistic. That would be insane. So then you've got the maintenance, which is where you eat all of those foods and you either eliminate the ones that are sure triggers for you. Like chili for me, I can live without chili. And then anything that can cause some issues. So for me, I realized ultra-processed foods and certain grains don't agree with my body. And these are all healthy things. Like people think gluten is the devil. Gluten is not the devil. For me and my body, it doesn't agree with me. So I limit those as much as possible. Now, the AIP is extreme. It should be done with some sort of resources. We've made the guide, but I always recommend people do it with a practitioner or a doctor to have that extra guidance. And it's also a short-term protocol where you take your learnings and then you live your life. People often get mixed up with the AIP being the extreme. No, that's phase 1. There's phase 2, phase 3, maintenance. Something, when I finished the AIP, I was like, there is something missing. And during this entire process, I was training to become a women's health practitioner with a certification in menstrual health, because I have endometriosis and a lot of women's health conditions are dictated by their cycles. And what I was learning was about all of these causes of inflammation. So those 6 pillars: food, gut, detoxification, sleep, stress, and movement. The AIP only talks about food. And I was like, what about all these other pillars? But also, what about the 99.9% of the population who maybe don't need to do the AIP? What is there for them? What about the busy person? What about the mum? What about the older person? What about the person who just needs help right now and can't commit to something like the AIP? And that is where we brought the 30-day reset, anti-inflammatory living, very much inspired by the learnings of the AIP in terms of reducing ultra-processed foods, but with my knowledge of, okay, let's look at protein, fats, and carbs, fiber, how important that is, looking at our hormones, and then again, looking at all those other pillars. Because what is the point of changing just your food, for example, if you are stressed at work, if you are not sleeping right? And that kind of brings us to the anti-inflammatory reset, which is the accessible way of living, which is for everyone's lifestyle. There are tips throughout. This is the book that I'm writing right now. It comes out on the 1st of January, which I'm so excited.
So exciting.
I can't wait. But it's available to pre-order now. So I'll give you the link if you can put it in the show notes. That'd be amazing. But in the book, we not only, because I think there's this running thing where we see these challenges and these themes and they tell you to do it, but they don't teach you the why. And I'm like, people aren't stupid. They want the information. They want to understand their health. So in the book, we go through the 6 pillars, why they're important, understanding inflammation, balancing blood sugar, finally understanding your hormones, how the 6 pillars come into it. And then there's a guided 30-day reset to take you through it. And what you will find on the last day is that you're like, oh, these are things I can do every day. This isn't just for 30 days. And I think a lot of people tell me if this is you too, where you are like, okay, but what do I eat? And that's why I was hell-bent on having over 80 anti-inflammatory recipes in the book so that you have everything you need in this one little guide.
Yeah, of course. Because I remember first going gluten-free after already being dairy-free and just being like, what the fuck do I eat? Yeah. Like, genuinely, what? Exactly. Am I allowed to eat? What can I eat? Like everything in restaurants, like it was just very confusing. And for anyone listening to this who knows that they maybe are dealing with some inflammation and they want to make smaller changes what would you suggest? Just like little switches, little changes that they can make in their everyday to be able to actually decrease that inflammation?
Yeah. So the reset gives you a really good kind of balance of what you should do throughout the day. But for the listener that is like, I want answers right now, do my mini reset in the morning. It's just a morning routine, but it sets you up for success. First of all, you start with your lymphatic drainage. It takes 5 minutes and you will be so surprised at what you see in the mirror. There's a reason those videos always go viral, because people try it and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this works. Number 2 is a morning walk. Even if it is 10 minutes outside, the walk can help stimulate digestion, and having a morning bowel movement, a morning poo, can be one of the best things you can have for you, for your hormones, for your health. But also that time outside with natural sunlight coming into your eyes, it's so good because it helps wake you up. It gets your melatonin down so you actually start to feel awake. And then a high protein breakfast, ultra processed free if possible, or as close to that as possible, because people say high protein breakfast, perfect, let's get a protein bar, let's do a protein shake, let's do the refined sugar free blah 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 blah. No, I'm talking about real food: eggs, smoked salmon, sweet potato. If you can tolerate dairy, Greek yogurt with some nice gut loving granola, not the sugary one, the nice one with some berries, amazing. Everyone tells me I'm a weirdo for doing this, but once you start you won't be able to stop. I just cook too much for dinner and I have it for breakfast.
I do dinner for breakfast too. I don't do breakfast foods, especially when you go gluten and dairy free. It's like there's very little and you're wanting to get over 30 grams of protein. I eat breakfast like any other meal.
How much better do you feel eating that way?
So much better. And when I was on my honeymoon, I was not doing that because breakfast buffets deserve to be eaten.
Yes,
and
they do.
I took it too far, and every single day I felt like actual shit, to the point where I was like, okay. So usually if I'll eat something that will make me feel bad, I'm like, do you know what? It was worth it.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I was just like, do you know what? There is such a thing as taking it too far. And I was doing exactly that.
But okay, one, you're human, you're normal, you're on your honeymoon. Absolutely enjoy. Zero regrets. Also, I fucking love an almond croissant. And there is nothing in this world.
They deserve to be eaten again.
They deserve to be, nothing in this world is taking that away from me. Am I having one every morning? No.
Yeah.
Do I have one every couple of weeks? Yes. But what is important, and you've kind of said it in what you've just said there, is that when you go through a period of getting rid of your inflammation and managing that, you have control of your health, of what you then experience. So if you want the breakfast buffet with the croissants, with this, with that, and you're not thinking about protein, no problem, eat it. If it's worth it, go for it. And then you start to get those symptoms back and you go, okay, it's time to get back to it. It's time to have that reset, which is exactly why we've called it the anti-inflammatory reset. But you have control. The other thing is, when you live an anti-inflammatory life, your body it's for the first time ever, your immune system isn't firing at you all the time. The sirens aren't on. Your immune system is like, we're cool. And then you have an almond croissant and your body's like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah,
we're going to process. Calm down, but we're going to process. So now I have an almond croissant and I have no food anxiety because I'm like, there's no inflammation. I have one, processes it, done.
Yeah.
Different story. And everyone responds to ultra processed foods to different degrees. I would say, please find me someone who can tolerate ultra processed foods every single day and doesn't feel shit about it. But I can now tolerate the tidbit here and there because it's not ruining my life. And we need to also recognize that we live in a world where it's impossible to go ultra processed free all the time. I would love to say no and have it ever again. Leave the house and try and buy something that isn't ultra processed food. I challenge you today to go into any supermarket and pick up a pre-cooked chicken, turn over the packet. It will have dextrose, emulsifiers, sugars, everything. The only thing you have that doesn't have like sweetness and stuff like that might be something like prosciutto, and it will be pork and salt. It's everywhere, but it's like, what can we control and make the best of that?
Yeah.
And outside of that, make the best decision you can. And for me, it's the almond croissant. For you, it's on your honeymoon. Best believe I'll be doing the same on my honeymoon.
Yeah.
But
mine will not be restricted just to my honeymoon, just to for legal reasons, I must clarify. It will be continuing at points.
we could do it, yeah.
But I do think once you've made like the changes I made, because I pretty much changed everything about my lifestyle for from like December, January until now, and very much plan to continue. But it's once you start doing that, and I never would have believed myself saying this because I just wouldn't have. But like when you do get to feeling so much better, it is quite hard to go back, because when you start like ruining your day by eating something that your body doesn't agree with and it doesn't process well and it makes you crash and it makes you need a nap and like all of that, it's hard to feel yeah, it's hard to want to do it,
Yeah.
which is crazy because anything with food, I generally do want to do.
Yeah. But this is the thing, it becomes part of your lifestyle. The food that you're eating ends up being the food that you're craving. So people who are like, no, I could never live without that. Do the anti-inflammatory reset for 30 days and then come back to me. Because you find food that you love, so you realize you're not missing out on anything. It becomes part of your lifestyle, so you realize that all the things that are important to you stay. You do these anti-inflammatory things around them. And tell me, because my experience is I'm healthier, I am happier, I am more successful, my business is growing and my team is growing because I don't have brain fog. I don't have endo symptoms. I'm not permanently in hospital. And I'm not saying that everyone is guaranteed to have these results. It's been my experience. But you tell me from yours, you've been through an anti-inflammatory way of living. How much better do you feel?
Yeah, just like everything. It's just like you stop. The baseline of what you think about can change. Whereas like so much of my baseline was like, am I going to feel good today? Like having really, really heavy and really painful periods, like knowing that something is going to be on the first day of your period and you know, like, I don't know, get migraines or whatever it might be, or like extreme pain. And it's just, you have so much to think about before you even get to your day.
Yeah.
And it's just nice not having that.
And that I think is something really important for people listening. There are a few flags that I talk about where if you're experiencing these, it's really important to listen to them. So number one, if something is persisting, it's painful and it's disruptive to your life, you shouldn't be living with that. You deserve better. And that can happen as a result of lifestyle factors. It can be the fact that we live in the world that we do, but we can find calm in the chaos, and anti-inflammatory living can really help that. The reason I say it's important to listen to these symptoms and not ignore them is that there is a percentage of people, you and I, you've been open about your PCOS, I've been open about my endometriosis. There is a percentage of people that can have underlying conditions that can also drive this inflammation. Endometriosis, PCOS, ovarian cysts, IBS. There are so many things that can be at play, and it's really, really important to listen to your symptoms. And if this inflammation is going on, to seek help. Go to your doctor, go to a women's health practitioner and work through it, because you shouldn't be living in pain. You deserve better. And that's why it's so important to listen to your body.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like that's the perfect way to wrap this up. But before I do, I would like to ask you what the best piece of advice is that you've ever been given.
It would be so cliche, but nothing changes if nothing changes. And that is true for your health. If you're getting the same answer from your doctor and you're being dismissed, change your doctor. If you are not happy with your workplace, change your workplace. If you are not happy with the way of eating, change the way that you are eating. But people keep expecting results when they are not changing anything. And that was me. I was in the pits. I thought nothing would happen. By some miracle, my life was going to change. Nothing changed until I changed my job, changed my way of living, changed my partner, and changed my way of like eating, the anti-inflammatory life. So yeah, nothing will change if nothing changes.
I love that. That's very good advice. Well, thank you so much. You've been absolutely incredible. And I have no doubt that everyone will learn a lot from this episode. So thank you so much.
Thank you.